won't be silent anymore.
Sing that again, and we won't.
And we won't be silent anymore. We won't be silent anymore.
Sing that again, and we won't.
And we won't be silent anymore. We won't be silent anymore.
Sing that again, and we won't.
And we won't be silent anymore. We won't be silent anymore.
So, if you could just give a brief statement on sort of what's going on today and what the state is of the people who are in the SPU under civil commitment.
Well, as people understand, there is a civil and a criminal aspect to the psychiatric unit at the state prison, and it's almost like out of a horror story. So we want to bring awareness to this, and I believe today there's going to be a march with regards to this whole issue. In particular, Andrew Butler is one of the individuals, never committed a crime. He's in the psychiatric unit here at the New Hampshire State Prison, 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. We don't treat animals like that. We need a solution, and we need it now.
My name is Eric Largy. I'm a former patient up at the SPU here at the state prison in New Hampshire, in Concord. I was kept there for 5.5 years. I had an incident with my father in 2009. I was held in Hillsborough County for 19 months. They civilly committed me. A former employee of my father did a petition, sent me to the state. You don't get a hearing for 5 years once you're there. My charges were all dropped in 2012. There was no criminal trial or hearing. I was sent right to SPU and then kept there. In 2012, when the charges were dropped, they kept me all the way till 2016. I opened up my records with Nancy West on In-Depth New Hampshire to the public, and she went to the probate hearings and the court hearings and got transcripts, and that's the only way you're going to advocate for anybody up in SPU is to get attention, whether the watchdog groups are not doing their job, the advocacy groups are not doing their job. It's independent filmmakers and independent newsmakers that are holding government accountable at this point. And what I had witnessed at SPU, nobody should be subjected to. So there is an devolving standard of decency there. I know of people that have chewed their fingers off up there. They have cut their testicles off up there. They have cut themselves. These, I believe, it's my feeling that the conditions that people are being held in is creating this depression and the mental illness in them. That is not a place to get well or healthy, and it's actually inducing mental illness. And I do have a serious worry that the prison system is now taking people that should not be in the prison system and bringing them into that, and they're controlling them by environmental conditions that are promoting mental illness. And so I've witnessed up there too that criminal populations that are mixed with the severely mentally ill take advantage of the severely mentally ill, and they have a little game and they play with those people and try to get their food. I've seen them assault them. I've seen them punch them in the face and try to get their TV. I've seen all kinds of abuses from that mix of the population. I see a lot of the corrections officers up there are very quick. They work a lot of overtime hours, and they don't have the patience to deal with that population. So they're not professionals in dealing with mental health issues, and I think they confuse the behaviors of some of these people. This is an environmentally induced problem here at SPU, and the environment and conditions, like I said, are just terrible.
When were you there?
I was there in 2010 to 2016. I suffered an aortic dissection. I didn't get treatment for 12 hours. So at 7:30 at night, I was complaining that I was having serious heart problems, like a serious major thing. I had called a friend of mine and told him that I was going to be locked down. So they didn't treat me, and at 10 o'clock they lock you down I had called him prior and told him that I was in serious distress and that I was worried about my situation. I didn't receive any medical care until 7:30 the next morning. 12 hours later, I was med flighted to Concord Hospital and then to Dartmouth. I was brought to Concord Hospital and then med flighted. Almost died 3 times there. The diet, the inactivity, everything that transpires at SPEW will take your health. You know what I mean? And then if they give you the medications on top, you're talking about populations that die 25 to 30 years earlier in their life between the medication and the inactivity. Myself, I've never been on a medication. I was held at a psychiatric hospital, never on psychiatric drugs my entire life.
Do they prescribe you medication?
No. No, not for me. I never was on any medications up there.
Did anybody die while you were there?
Yes, at least 3 to 4 people died.
Now, do you know who was the warden back then?
Commissioner William Wren, yeah. I actually spoke out.
And what about the office, besides him, how about officers?
Which officers were...
No, do you remember any officer's name back then?
Yeah, I don't think I want to put names out, but Helen Hanks is the commissioner now, and I went up and testified at the executive council against her becoming the new commissioner. So I was one of the only people that I went up there and said that until SPEW is resolved, this issue of whether it's a constitutional treatment or not, you should not put that woman in charge of the Department of Corrections. And she was also the head of SPEW while I was there prior. So, yeah, I've spoken out against that, and I still feel very strongly that the leadership and the stewardship of the Department of Corrections, with the overtime budgets, they're not properly treating people.
What was the result of that interview?
The executive council, with Helen Hanks, voted to make her commissioner, you know.
And what about in relationship to you, to your release?
To my release, I was actually held. They said I was a perfect gentleman the entire time on the stand at probate court, and the judge brought out and underlined that I had not had one incident in 7.5 years, not one. So an individual that usually has problems, a lot of times up there, they have a hard time following the rules and doing stuff. I had not one incident, and I was a total gentleman. That prompted my release from Department of Corrections to get moved to New Hampshire Hospital. 5 psychiatrists at SPEW were willing to keep me. 1 legitimate doctor at New Hampshire Hospital, an accredited facility and everything else. The judge gave all the weight to the doctor at New Hampshire Hospital. So that just goes to tell you that the doctors at SPEW are not coordinated with the people at New Hampshire Hospital. And so there's a public safety issue at SPEW with the Department of Corrections. It's public health at New Hampshire Hospital. So if it's all about your mental health, I'll take the doctors at New Hampshire Hospital. Yep. The SPEW is more of a punishment. A reform is the correction population. Yep. So I asked the question to Jeffrey Myers, the commissioner on NHPR 3 weeks ago. That was me that called up and asked him the legitimacy of SPEW. That if my question posed to NHPR, to Commissioner of Public Health and Human Services, was if the secure psychiatric unit is perceived as a legitimate mental health treatment facility, why was it that it was not included in the $30 million mental health settlement? Real simple, because it's not a legitimate mental health treatment facility.
Wow.
And so, $30 million, how do they answer that? So in this state, they need beds, they need all that stuff. SPEW was left out and not mentioned in the mental health settlement. That was a day after I was sent to SPEW. There was an investigation into the mental health system in New Hampshire. Disability rights, called them 30 times. Called them for 5 or 6 different people that were up at SPEW. So there was issues that people that have seizures, when you talk about a lot of people that have seizures, people up there have seizures as a result of the medication or what. I've never seen the population of people have as many seizures as I've seen there. People just go down, hit their head against the concrete. One gentleman hit his head so many times while I was there that he'd have 30 to 50 grand mal seizures a day. I had to actually help write a thing. He was going for some treatment, special treatment up at Dartmouth for his seizures and that. And I wrote a little note and he brought it up there and said that he was at severe risk for Alzheimer's and everything else from all hitting his head so much. They told him they were going to drop him as a patient and spew unless they got him a helmet. So what ultimately I wanted to do was protect his cranium and help him because he was becoming mush and they were doing nothing. And he would be bleeding and he looked deformed. And so, yeah, and they did nothing until I actually intervened and helped push that along. So several times I called Disability Rights Center. They failed a lot of times. I can tell you that there is times that I called and that same gentleman, there was a battery in his chest to help prevent the seizures, and he had a magnet, and it was overdue. The battery was supposed to be changed years before. And so I called Disability Rights, and they were telling him, no, you're all set. Within 3 days after calling, Disability Rights called there, he was scheduled and had surgery that next week. So had Disability Rights protected and advocated for these people, a lot more of these people could have been protected. But that wasn't my job in SPEW to help people, but I felt empathy for the people that were up there because of the treatment was so bad and so horrible. It doesn't matter what they're there for. As a human being, you'd have to recognize that the suffering that's going on there.
So how are you making out at this time?
I've been out now. It's tough because I had that aortic dissection and the health issues that I had, so I'm trying to regain health. They took health at an accelerated rate. 7.5 years I was up there. They feed you terrible food, and like I said, inactivity levels. Then they're always short of staff. You don't get out when you should. I was out a half hour in the morning and a half hour at day, sunlight, under a roof, to which there was bird shit all around it, and the rest of the whole prison watches where the SPEW people come out, and they have a yard on top of a roof. So all the prison looks at those people. So you're under the microscope, and the prison population doesn't like the SPEW population. I've seen them throw rocks at people walking around in SPEW in that cage in that little area there, because the population is so bad. There's a lot of sex offenders, different people, population groups that are up there, and there'll be inmates on the other side that hate that population. So you're in that mix. So no matter what you did, they don't know anything that you're there for in SPEW, but they just hate people at SPEW. So here you are, further stigmatized, put under in a magnifying glass for the whole other prison, and then paraded around in these uniforms. And you know, it's just there's nothing beneficial, therapeutic, or anything. They do it on purpose. It's degrading and inhumane treatment, and I think it's a states' rights failed experiment. And you know, it's the treatment of people like that. And I've also said, you know, I wouldn't want to take anything. Andrew and all them, he's had no charges, he's up there, but I really believe that if you have any kind of charges or anything too when you're sent to SPEW, that's an obstruction of justice or a witness tampering, because they want you to go to court after they subject you to that kind of treatment. That's like an inducement of mental illness. They're not helping you, prepare you for later on, whether it be court or nothing. They're trying to hurt you and leverage your health to get you to conform to whatever they want you to do. And if they control your health, they control the person. And so what they're doing is trying to control people through their health. And then they're calling it justice-involved population with mental illness. So if you go back and you look at the interview with NHPR that I had questioned Commissioner Jeffrey Myers, he said that they're trying to figure out what to do with that correction population of mentally ill. So they've separated all kinds of populations of mental illness. So people in the Hampshire hospital are treated better, way better than people at SPEW.
Yep.
So if you have the same medical condition, you'd be treated the same way medically. But there's a political influence going on at SPEW that doesn't allow those people to get treated medically the same. That's the disparate difference in treatment, and it's bad, you know. And they don't want those people to live. No, they don't want them to live or survive. They feel that they're either a drain or they have nothing to offer of value. You know what I mean? I easily could have died a few times, you know, but I did witness people dying up there.
My name is Beatrice Coulter. In May of 2015, I accepted a position in the Secure Psychiatric Unit. I'm a nurse, and when I accepted the position, my working assumption was this was a forensic unit within the prison to care for mentally ill inmates. So shortly after arriving, I learned that there were civilly committed individuals in there. I also learned there were women in there, and there were also individuals who were developmentally disabled in there. So essentially you had all of these populations mingled together. You had individuals who were not guilty by reason of insanity, you had pretrial detainees, you had incompetent to stand trial, and there was no way to really make any distinctions about whom was who. So essentially what I realized very quickly is that if you were in SPU, even if you were civilly committed, you were a de facto prisoner. You were under their care and custody, and you were subject to anything that went on there that they can do to inmates, including tasers and things of that sort. So this was unacceptable, and I recognized that, civilly committed people had constitutional protections. They could not be in a prison, they could not be subject to this, and I left that job within 3.5 days. And pretty much, I wasn't looking for an issue, but this issue kind of found me. So I realized that this whole thing of presenting the Secure Psychiatric Unit as a hospital was a smokescreen. It was an illusion. The Secure Psychiatric Unit is not a hospital. It's not licensed. It's not accredited. It's not subject to oversight by any other outside regulatory agency. So essentially they pretty much do whatever they want because it is a prison. And you have to make a decision ethically and clinically as to whether you want to be part of that. And I chose not to be. So here we are 3 years later, and awareness is finally starting to, increase. And this case is really emblematic. One does not need to file a writ of habeas corpus in a federal court to leave a hospital. So I think it speaks for itself, and we'll see what happens.
I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. To the best of my knowledge, the Secure Psychiatric Unit has been around now for 35 years or more, and they have been sending civilly committed individuals into SPU now for just about that period of time. So this is, as Rennie Cushing calls it, it's New Hampshire's dirty little secret. It's really not a secret. It just became an accepted standard, and that's what makes it even more trouble.
Do they have any licensed physicians, psychiatrists, or anything?
They do. There are licensed healthcare professionals in there, nursing staff. There are licensed nurse practitioners, etc. There are clinicians in SPU. The problem is it's the structure and operations of the environment. And if you haven't committed a crime, you don't end up in a prison. But the state has been able to manipulate this. And I've heard DOC officials testify before the legislature that it is a hospital. Well, I respectfully disagree. It is not a hospital. And it doesn't meet the standards of a hospital. So to continue to criminalize mental illness in this way is it's barbaric, and it's primitive, and we need to move forward. This is 2018.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here, yes.
My name is Arnie Alpert. On behalf of the sponsors of this, the American Friends Service Committee, Advocates for Ethical Mental Health Treatment, and New Hampshire Voices of Faith, I want to welcome you to the beginning of the pilgrimage for dignity, compassion, and justice. What we're going to do is we're going to begin with some words of prayer from the Reverend Gail Kinney. Then I'm going to ask Doug Butler to say a few words about his son Andrew. I'm going to ask Ruth Heath to lead us in a song. But actually before that, I'll just say a few more words about what are our plans for the walk today. All right, so Reverend Gail Kinney, please.
Good morning, one and all, and thank you so much for being here this morning, and thank you for being witnesses for compassion, witnesses for justice. Again, my name is Gail Kinney. I am a pastor with the Meriden Congregational Church, and so I would like to invite all of us here today, from our multiple faith traditions or no particular tradition, but just from our sense of moral conscience, our sense of justice, to be in a few moments of prayer and meditation. I am asking all of you to imagine. Imagine a loved one. Imagine somebody who is very near to you, very dear to you, someone whom you love unconditionally. Or imagine even yourself.
Please just offer a few words for us about Andrew and what's happening today.
Sure.
Please come up. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm Doug Butler, Andrew's father, and I actually was able to get a law changed in California years ago. And I was able to, it was in Santa Barbara County, which is anti-growth. And I was able to help some people who wanted to build their homes that weren't allowed to. And it was called Measures D in '87. And what I found there was when I would stand in a situation like this, and there would be one person behind me, and then I would turn around again, and there'd be two, and then three, and then four, and pretty soon I had a group of 250 people. And we distributed flyers, we did a lot of work, and we were able to get this law changed, and the people were allowed to build their homes. And Andrew's situation is similar. There's Andrew sitting up there. He's been in for 9 months. It's been horrible. I've touched him one time in that 9 months, allowed to. They keep us separated by glass and walls. Hopefully, like I say, if it's just me, they'll just do what they want with him, and that will be that. And now I'm meeting other people, and we're getting someplace. I think we're going to get Andrew out of there. I honestly do. And it'll because of your work and groups like this and meeting and bringing it to the attention of people. And thank you for coming. And we'll have to keep up the effort. Thank you.
I'm Arnie Alpert, and I'm the co-director for the New Hampshire program of the American Friends Service Committee, which I've been doing for about 37 years now. Yeah. So the American Friends Service Committee is an organization connected to the Quakers that is concerned for social justice and peace, and has been concerned about conditions facing prisoners really pretty much since the beginning of the organization's existence 100 years ago. So that when we heard from Representative Cushing several years ago about the conditions facing people who are being held at the Secure Psychiatric Unit, it was just kind of a natural step for us to step up and say, we need to be paying attention to this. So we started out by joining with Rennie Cushing and with Wanda and Beatrice, who later formed the Advocates for Ethical Mental Health Treatment, in a application to the U.S. Department of Justice to conduct a civil rights investigation into the status and conditions at the Secure Psychiatric Unit. And once we put our name on that, we started paying additional attention to the issue as it was coming up at the State House in relationship to budgets, in relationship to studies, in relationship to simply raising awareness, especially among the legislators who are supposed to be responsible and accountable for institutions of state government to be demanding change. Along the way, we've been able to meet people like Eric Largy, people who are moms and dads and brothers and sisters of people who are currently or who have been held in the SPU, and story after story after story are stories of inhumane treatment. So this latest story about Andrew Butler that's gotten attention has again given an opportunity to bring this outrage into the light of public scrutiny, where we hope that change will finally take place. And that's why we organized today's pilgrimage, and that's why we're here today.
Okay, my name is
He has found pubic hair in the food. The treatment he has received is cruel and unusual punishment without having been convicted of a crime and with no pending criminal process. The Secure Psychiatric Unit is not a psychiatric hospital, and it is no place for treatment of people with severe mental illness. So for Andrew, for William, and for all others, let us be in solidarity with them today, and let us hope and pray that they have very few more tomorrows in this place and they get the treatment they deserve.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you, William. And greetings to William Jr. on the inside. Realize with singing is a good way to bring our spirits together in unity and strengthen our spirits for the walk, not only the walk to the State House and the walk to the federal court, but the walk that we are on to a just society for everybody.
Okay, I'm going to sing a song called Somebody's Hurting My Brother, and it's call and response. I'll sing and you respond. How many people already know this song? Okay, help us out. The words.
How many are going to know it very soon?
Yes.
Everybody, all right?
I'm going to sing Somebody's Hurting My Brother, and you're going to say, and I'm going to say that's gone on, you're going to sing Far Too Long, and sing along with me once you get the other words. And then at the end we're going to say, and we won't be silent anymore. Okay, you want to say that? And we won't be silent anymore. Somebody's hurt my brother, and it's gone on far too long. And it's gone on far too long. And it's gone on far too long. Oh, somebody's hurt my brother, and it's gone on far too long, and we won't be silent anymore. Oh, hear me now, somebody's jailing my brother, and it's gone on far too long. Gone on far too long. Now it's gone on far too long. Oh, somebody's jailing my brother, and it's gone on far too long, and we won't be silent anymore. Hear me now, somebody jailing my sister. We won't be silent anymore. Let's sing that again, and we won't. And we won't be silent anymore. We won't be silent anymore.
Not a soul. He has a bare cell. Not a book, not a TV, nothing. He just sits in there for 23 hours. If he's lucky, then they'll let him out for an hour. 2 half-hour segments.
But by your own admission, he was assaulted or violent at the mental health facility, and they apparently felt that they couldn't control him.
Well, yes, but there's other things you can do. You know, there's other things I can do. And I'm not a hospital. I'm a parent.
What has this been like for you?
It's horrible. I touched Andrew one time in the last 9 months. That was in a courtroom. That was it. Supposedly, I'm supposed to have a contact visit on Saturday, but that's because of you and the pressure being applied. And I'm grateful for it, but it'll be our first time. Andrew's able to keep his spirits up somehow, which I find remarkable.
And do you feel that he's capable of being, out of a solitary environment? I mean, given his...
Yeah, I think so.
Why?
It's hard to explain, but he's had, I would call them episodes. And it's clear, I can tell, that he had a point, and whether it's the drugs or whatever, I don't know, the psychotropic drugs, but I can tell I'm not getting through to him. And so I can identify it as a parent, it's things we pay attention to.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Hollis?
Yeah.
We won't be silent anymore.
Let's sing that again, and we won't.
And we won't be silent anymore. We won't be silent anymore.
Let's sing that again, and we won't.
And we won't
Turn us around.
Basic stuff.
For next year or something.
Well, my name is Stan McCumber, and this is my wife, Jenny Wright. And she and I, our son David, was taken into state custody in October of 2016. And he was charged with various crimes which have never been adjudicated. So when he was taken in, he was taken in to county prison and then on to state prison on a parole violation. And he was never given a parole hearing. He never had a hearing to determine his legal status. But he was taken to SPEW, nevertheless. And in there, he found a lot of punishment and very little treatment for his mental illness, which he suffered his whole life. I don't know what to say, just that he, there was some question as to his competency to stand trial, a legal term meaning was he mentally fit to stand trial. And people in SPEW, they insisted that he was faking it, that his mental illness was not real, and they based their actions while he was in SPEW on this notion that he was faking it. And he suffered a lot of different things. He was injured during the time of when he was doing his alleged crimes. He was never treated for this injury. They said he was faking that. It turned out he had a torn meniscus and a broken tibia. He was forced to walk up and down stairs in that condition. They denied his visits when he refused to walk up these stairs. And so it was a very common theme of Andrew Butler, what his situation was, your nephew, all of that, extremely similar. We know that SPEW is not a therapeutic place, a prison. That's it.
What is his age?
David was born in 1985, so he's 33 years old right now. Yes. He was rescued out of SPEW by a prison administrator who showed mercy to him. She reclassified him to C3, took him up to Berlin, and now he's part of a mental health unit there that is nationally recognized as helping people and not punishing them. So I would, if I were in charge, I would start at the top. I would find new administrator and a new captain. That would be step one. And I would insist that people who came into that place be treated decently, ethically, and they be given plenty of food, and it's enough punishment just to be there, believe me. If you have ever seen the inside of this place, it looks like a maximum security prison to me, and it's so that's enough punishment. You don't need to be denied toilet paper. So
he's a very energetic, playful person, smart, good talker. He was kind of a rebel. It was hard to get him to follow the rules that we wanted him to follow, but he's a good-hearted person. He's always been somebody who had a certain level of anxiety, and all of that came out a lot more as a teenager, and he started to self-medicate with marijuana and other things, and you know, went down a path that we didn't support. But I think a lot has been trying to deal with his anxiety and depression, and trying to deal with it in the only way he knew how. And when he was in the state in SPEW, he was suicidal at that point. He was very upset. He was very, very anxious and afraid of all the people that were, you know, the guards and so on, and his treatment was very bad. They would do petty things to punish him. He played chess, and he made chess pieces out of like paper mache, out of toilet paper, and he had a friend that wanted to play chess with him, and he had made 2 whole chess sets, one for the friend and one for him, because they couldn't be together, and they took him away. He's very artistic. He was painting, making really beautiful artwork. They took away his pencils. They took away his mattress at one time. They took away his pillow at another time. His leg was not treated for 5 months. When they finally treated it, it got better, but it didn't get better for 5 months until they finally treated it. Just all this stuff that happened to him. From people that wanted to, basically, it seems like what they want to do is break your will and have you just become very, very passive and obedient.
Steps, yeah. Going up the State House steps. Yeah. Thank you for coming and standing up this morning. I want to give thanks to the American Friends Service Committee, the advocates for the ethical treatment of persons with mental illness, I can't remember the name of it, and especially the Voices of Faithful. As a state legislator, I can't tell you how important it is to have the moral witness of people who lift up values as opposed to just costs here in the State House. Although we're marching from the secure psychiatric unit of state prison to the federal courthouse, it's important to stop here because the responsibility for the criminalization of people with mental illness and the continued existence of the secure psychiatric unit as a place of punishment and not treatment lies in this building. The policymakers of the state of New Hampshire, who 35 years ago decided it would be okay to take someone who'd never committed a crime but who was a threat to either themselves or to others, and to put them behind prison walls. That decision was made under that dome. That outrage continues to take place today. The legislature has acknowledged in the past that what it was doing to our most vulnerable among us was wrong. 2005 and 2006, it made a recommendation that we create the legislative committee made a recommendation we build a forensic psychiatric hospital where we would treat people. The legislature failed to act on that the next year. 2010, once again, it was a study and a recommendation that we build a hospital to treat people instead of putting them in prison, and nothing has happened. I think we're at a critical moment today where we've seen litigation begin. The fact that we're going to gather before a federal courthouse and we have someone asking the federal courts to order the state of New Hampshire to take someone out of the prison and to provide psychiatric treatment for their illness is kind of a watershed moment. And I'm hoping by our public witness here and by our continued witness, agitation, exhortation, and education that we'll be able to transform the situation so that we treat people with illness as patients, not prisoners. Thanks. Thank you, Representative Cushing. What we're going to do now is we're going to walk through this way over to State Street. We'll take a left on State Street, then we'll take a right on Pleasant and walk up to right across from the federal courthouse. We'll cross the crosswalk in front of the federal courthouse and have Beatrice Coulter speak there and have a closing prayer. And we might have a couple of additional words at that point, but we want to make sure that people who are planning to attend the 11 a.m. hearing are able to do that.
We won't be silent anymore.
Let's sing that again, and we won't.
And we won't be silent anymore. We won't be silent anymore.
Let's sing that again, and we won't.
and we won't be silent anymore.
Down, I'm going to ask, Doug, do you want to say another word?
Well, yeah, thank you all for showing up. You're going to make the difference. I would like one of Andrew's friends to say a few words.
That would be great.
If you would.
He can. Please come up.
All right.
Hi, I'm Evan Porter. I was one of Andrew's good friends growing up. So, yeah, basically, Andrew moved to Hollis when he was in 5th grade, right?
Yeah.
So when he was in 5th grade, and I remember he didn't really know anyone, and I remember he always told me that I was one of his first friends. But that kind of quickly, turned into almost everyone in the school being friends with him. He had such a positive attitude, such high energy that, it was so hard not to smile when you were talking to him. And, anyone who's ever met him, anyone who knows him can kind of say the same. And, he's still the same bright person that he is today. And he has the whole community backing him up. But the problem is, it makes it hard for the community to back him up when they're not given the opportunity. And I personally, when he was admitted to a hospital, I was able to see him, to regularly contact him, and he was able to contact me. But now, I have to fill out all these forms and hopefully get it approved, and he's only allowed to see people on Saturdays. And even then, it's still hard. So, we're just trying to get him into the best position possible so that he can, get the treatment he deserves, go back to the community that loves him and that wants him back.
Yes. Thank you so much, Evan. Thank you for your love for Andrew, for not giving up on him, and we all have to keep that as a message, that we don't give up on each other, we don't give up on the state of New Hampshire, we don't give up on this country, we don't give up on our ability to make things right. Ruth Heath, and then we'll have Reverend Gail Avery from the Episcopal Church of New Hampshire with some final words.
Let's do that. Somebody's hurting my brother. Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. And it's gone on far too long. I tell you, it's gone on far too long. Oh, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't. And we won't be silent anymore. Yes, I know somebody is jailing my far too long, and it's gone on far too long. I tell you, it's gone on far too long. Oh, somebody is jailing my sister, and it's gone on far too long.
And we have a God that has created us, who demands that we use our bodies and our voices so that we can be in community together and we can be the voice of those that may not have a voice today. So let us pray. O God of many names, we look around today and we see the beauty of this day. You have shown and shine so much love and sunshine upon us. And we know that you are a God that is able to move hearts and move mountains. So we ask that you are with our legislators, that you are with our mental care people, that you are with our COs and our prison guards, and those that care for those that have mental illness. We thank you for their presence with them, but please move their hearts to give people the justice that they need and the medicine they need and the care that they need, and that they are no longer institutionalized or criminalized. We ask that you move those hearts that are hardened, that will give the care of people, and especially Andrew. And we ask that you continue to make our voices strong and make us stand tall to fight this fight, because we are no longer going to be silent. And so as we go from here, stand tall, use your voices, do not be afraid. Know that we are all together. We will not be silent anymore. Amen.
We don't give up on each other. We don't give up on the state of New Hampshire. We don't give up on this country. We don't give up on our ability to make things right.